You're on mute, Ron. No problems.
Good evening.
Good
Good
evening.
evening. We should all have on our tombstones, you're on mute.
Yeah.
Holly, can you hear me?
I can now, Mayor.
Okay, I've never done this before. I'm doing it on the phone while I'm driving home, so we'll see how this goes.
Okay. Careful. Safety first.
Absolutely. I'm mostly gonna listen.
For a moment, lost the.
So, oh, unless you went through a dead zone.
You know.
Can you hear
Are
me
you in your
now?
car, Tony?
Yes.
Yeah. Yes, can you hear us? Shake your head if you can hear us. Okay.
Yep.
Okay. We've got another
So we are
minute to go.
just-
I'm waiting, Terry.
Yeah, we're just waiting for Tony. The other HR Mansfield is Kelsey to take the minutes.
Okay. Just wait another minute or so for Terry.
Sure.
There she comes.
There she is. Let me admit her. Oh, I guess Kelsey beat me to it.
Okay, it is now 5:01, so I will call the meeting, the special meeting of the Personnel Committee to order. Can we call the roll, please?
Sure.
Mhm.
Ron Shuren,
Here,
Carrie Berthelot,
I'm here.
and Brian, remind me of your last name, Coleman? No.
I'm here. Coleman's right.
and we are joined by Holly Schaefer, Ryan Ellsworth, and our mayor, Tony Moran. First order of business is public comment. Has there been anyone from the public who indicated desire to comment at this meeting?
We have received no public comment for this meeting.
Okay, thank you. Next item is the approval of the minutes of our November 22nd, 2021 meeting. Is there a motion?
So
or
moved.
changes to the- So moved by Ms. Berthelot, seconded by Mr. Coleman. Any comments, changes to the minutes? If not, all those in favor of approving the minutes of the November 22nd meeting, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. So the next item of old business is the conclusion of the process of selecting the town attorney. We've had a meeting about this. We have reviewed applications and had lengthy discussion about the town attorney position, have conducted interviews. If with that, before we have a motion, is there anyone who wants to make any comments or discussion about this matter? Brian?
I noticed there was two other candidates that put forth proposals.
Yes,
Andrew Crumby and Updike.
yes.
And I see the conflict pretty clearly on Updike with their relationship with the University of Connecticut. But can anyone explain to me why we did not interview the Crumby firm?
We looked carefully at that application, and you were not yet on the committee, so it was Terry and myself who felt that it was not of the level of quality, the scope of experience, the focus of their work was one that we did not think met our standard.
I would have preferred to interview the Crumby firm.
Okay. Noted.
He has some interesting practical experience in law enforcement, as well as litigation, kind of a different aspect that of an attorney actually enforcing the law as well, practicing the law. I thought that was interesting.
We were handicapped in the process by, at that point, having just two members. We certainly would have welcomed and gone forward with your comments, thought about them at that point. Is there any other comment on this?
Ron,
Sorry, Tony, we can't hear you. Tony?
for me to make comments.
I'm sorry, it's not working.
Never mind,
Okay.
not working.
Now, question, is it, at this point, if there's no further comment, it would be appropriate to make a motion for the selection of the town committee that is a recommendation to the town council. they have the final authority. With that, is there a desire? Yes, Brian? Of
Can I make a motion on this?
course.
I'd like to move to interview the Crumbie firm before sending this to council for consideration.
Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second the motion.
Is there discussion?
Yeah, I, looked over his resume and his experience. I found it quite fascinating. I would love the opportunity to be able to question the Crumbie firm. Of course, in order to do that, we'd have to extend the existing contract with Deneen. So that would be part of the motion as well.
So the
Put that
motion,
under the council consideration.
okay, so the motion is to interview the other firm and also to extend the contract with Dean O'Malley and we can pick a date. What would be the date?
Is there a criteria of extensions, 30 days, 60 days, 90 days?
Ryan, do you have an answer to that?
The extension can be, as long, right now you're just essentially making a recommendation, but the council can extend for as long as it wishes. We're not required to even go out for a competitive review process, but it's just a best practice. And so that's why, we did it this time. It's been a while since the town had gone out. So there's nothing, the last extension was just done to provide a reasonable amount of time to complete the candidate interviews. So, it can be any amount of time that the council so chooses if an extension were to be contemplated.
Terry?
Thank you. I'm going to speak against the motion, and only because it's Ron and I look very closely at all of the pamphlets that were, or the packages that were submitted. And largely we were looking at it. I don't want to speak badly of anybody, so I'm not going to do that. But there were quality issues in the one application that Ron and I both were concerned with. It's a sort of position where we really want somebody who's always crossing their T's and dotting their I's. And we weren't seeing that in the application. And though I certainly appreciate Mr. Coleman's desire to have a different perspective from an attorney than we've had in the past, the level of municipality experience that the two firms that we brought in was far superior to the group that we didn't bring in. So I feel very comfortable, and I'm sorry, Mr. Coleman, that you weren't with us when we went through them and part of that discussion, but I feel out of respect for the two firms that are still in contention that we should wrap this up so that they know going forward that they'll be continuing to work with us or not work with us as it may be. But I feel like they've waited long enough for an answer.
I would just echo that and say that we did look very seriously at all four applicants and found that the quality issue was determinative in this case, and the conflict issue was determinative in the other case of the firm that we didn't interview. Are there any further comments?
Ron, can you hear me now?
I can hear you now, yeah.
Okay, I just want to point out that one of the primary responsibilities of the town attorney is land use litigation. Planning and zoning probably uses as much, if not more, of the town attorney's time than the council does. And so that is a very particular kind of expertise that we rely very heavily on. And I also want to point out that we're in the situation as a town where we have quite a few new staff members in very significant places, such as finance and the town manager. So that experience with the town itself, it seems to me, is going to be much more important over the next year or two than it would have been, say, 5 years ago.
If there are no further comments, then at this point, a motion would be in order. Another motion, should anyone wish to, or I can propose it.
Ron, we didn't vote on the last motion.
Yes, thank you. Let's take a vote on that motion. All those in favor of the motion proposed by Mr. Coleman? All those opposed? Okay, the motion is defeated. Now in order would be another motion. Terry?
Before I make the motion, could somebody tell me what the dates of the appointment with me and whether it would be an appointment or a hire? What language?
It would be an appointment. The dates would commence on January 1st because the current appointment period expires on December 31st. So it would be January 1st, 2022. And I would recommend that it extend, let's see, I just had it actually, extend through November 13th, 2023. That would be the first council meeting after the next council election.
Okay. All righty. I move to recommend to the town council the reappointment of O'Malley and Deneen as town attorney, I should say the firm of O'Malley and Deneen as town attorney for the period beginning January 1st, 2022 and ending November 13th, 2023.
I will second that motion. Any comments? Right?
This would be more essential for a full council vote later this evening, but you might want to include in your recommendation. I would just include verbiage to say you're also authorizing me as town manager to execute a formal service agreement with the firm in accordance with the terms laid out in their proposal. And that proposal was dated October 25th, 2021.
Do you want to amend your motion, Terry, to do that?
Yes, I'll amend.
I just put a suggested motion in the chat if somebody wants to review that. I think I captured what Terry was saying.
Just take a look. Move to recommend that the council appoint the firm of O'Malley, Deneen, Leary, Messina, and Oswicki as town attorney to serve under the terms contained in the firm's proposal dated October 25th, 2021, and to further recommend that the council authorize the town manager to execute a formal service agreement with the firm in accordance with these terms. It is recommended that this appointment would commence on January 1st, 2022 and continue through November 13th, 2023. All right.
So how do you want to handle, Ron? Is that an amendment to the original motion or just a new motion?
If you would accept that as a friendly amendment, we can take that as the motion as it will now stand.
All righty. I will accept it as a friendly amendment.
And I will second that. Is there any further discussion? All right, I will call a vote. All in favor, please raise your hand or say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Citing my late arrival to this process, I'm going to abstain.
Okay, so we have 2 in favor, 1 abstention. The motion passes. Okay, so this is a recommendation from the Personnel Committee to the Town Council. Okay. Next on the agenda, we have new business, several motions that essentially do the following. To reflect for non-union personnel certain provisions that have been negotiated, but I point out, not as yet been fully ratified and approved by our labor unions. And they involve, and you've seen the agenda, the provision of Juneteenth as a paid holiday for non-union full-time personnel. Tuition reimbursement, a change in the rate, a rise in the rate of tuition reimbursement for non-union personnel. Change addition and bereavement leave, adding stepmother and stepfather in the definition of immediate family member. And a change in the cost for non-union personnel in terms of health insurance. Change in the town contribution to the non-union retiree health insurance fund. And general wage increase for non-union personnel. Now, we can take these separately or all together. The little wrinkle that concerned me was that while these have all been negotiated with the unions and essentially gotten a sign-off, there has not as yet, due to some little scheduling wrinkles, been a ratification. So I would like to propose a slight changing in the wording of the agenda for each of these, and I'll take the first one. Move effective January 1st, 2022 to endorse June 18th as an additional paid holiday for non-union full-time personnel pending a ratification of the contracts of union personnel by the Employee Association and the town.
Can I just ask a question?
Yeah.
Is it possible to just hold off rather than have the complicated language until they're actually endorsed, or do we need to do it at this meeting for budgetary reasons?
Holly, you can explain, perhaps as you did to me today, why we have to do it now. Or why we could do it now.
Well, right, because then the next meeting of the Personnel Committee isn't until January 24th, would believe, along that lines, where once the unions ratify this, the town council ratifies it, we can then move on the transactions. The biggest one would be the general wage increase. So the non-union personnel would just be waiting longer than both the Public Works Union and the Professional Technical Union.
It's money for the holidays.
The other wrinkle, just to build on what Holly was saying, is that while I don't think it'll be this way in the future, once we kind of fully harness the power of our new accounting software right now anyway, there's an awful lot of manual calculation, like a lot of manual calculation that staff have to make, determining each individual employee's retro payment back to a date. And so if they make all those calculations and then the date that this is ratified changes, it changes their retro pay, and all that work has to be done over again. So I know it's not a great reason, but unfortunately it's just a situation where I'd hate to have that staff time have to be duplicated again. And we did expect, to Ron's earlier statement, when we planned for this for this evening, our expectation was that the unions would have had their ratification vote. So that's part of the reason why we circled this date on the calendar, thinking they were going to have their vote last week. And I'm not 100% sure why it didn't happen, but it didn't happen.
So, okay, I guess the language works given the circumstances. Ron, did you say June 18th or Juneteenth when you read it?
I meant to say Juneteenth. Holiday, add Juneteenth as a paid holiday.
I'll second it.
Any further?
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Why can't we lump all of those into one motion? I mean, that's my first question. My second question is to Ryan. Is there any likelihood that these terms would be changed from your expectation in the negotiated contracts?
I would be very surprised if that were the case. I mean, obviously, I can never say never. I can't speak for the actions of others in this case, but it certainly would be a surprise move, given that both parties designated signing authority, myself and the CSEA executive director. We've agreed to all the terms as part of the tentative final agreement. So really, this should be something of a formality, given that the union membership has already been briefed on all these terms. But I can't say it's impossible. It just would certainly be a big break from the norms.
In response to the mayor's suggestion about lumping them together, I'm certainly okay with that. Maybe I could read the motion as it would then state, which would encompass each of these, if you can accept my changing my original wording. So my motion would be effective June 1st, 2022, and contingent on final ratification of contracts by the union and by the town, to the following: endorse Juneteenth as an additional paid holiday for non-union full-time personnel and recommend approval to the town council. To endorse an increase to the tuition reimbursement in the amount of $2,500 annually for non-union personnel and to recommend approval to the town council. To endorse adding stepmother and stepfather as immediate family members for bereavement leave for non-union personnel and to recommend approval to the town council. To endorse an increase in the non-union employee health insurance premium for the HDHP/HSA to 16%, the PPO contribution remain at 20% and recommend approval to the town council. To endorse an increase to the town's contribution to the retiree health insurance for non-union retirees to $270 per month and recommend approval to the town council. And to endorse a 2.75, and this one, let me take this one separately and not include it because there's a retroactivity provision here and I would rather do this separately, not included in the others.
Second,
Ron,
Yes,
when you gave the dates, you said starting June 2022. Do you mean June 2022 or 21?
hold on.
I actually
just a
think he
moment.
meant to say effective January 1st,
January.
2022.
Right.
The one that
Okay.
is going to be separate is the one that is retroactive to.
Okay, that makes sense.
Okay, any discussion? Right?
Juneteenth.
sorry?
Juneteenth is a federal holiday,
It is.
correct?
Yeah.
Okay, is it a state holiday?
It is not currently, more than likely will be.
Okay, I noticed that just about everybody else is not getting that holiday as being a paid holiday. I would like to see the state endorse that as a state holiday before we go ahead and pay our employees a paid holiday that almost no one else gets, in fairness.
Let me just point out that the union contracts that are soon to be ratified, we assume, do include that provision. That would suggest that the ratification of the union contracts you would not support at that point.
Yeah, I understand that. I just wanted to be recognized on this comment. I certainly support Juneteenth as a federal and a state holiday. I just would like to see the state move ahead and make it a state recognized holiday before we pay our employees for that holiday.
Can I make a comment on this?
Yes.
When we formed the Human Rights Commission, one of their basic charges was to find a way to recognize Juneteenth as a holiday. And they did recommend to us that we make it a paid holiday as part of their collective bargaining agreements.
Okay.
Just as a side issue, for what it's worth, unless I misread the provisions for the Region 19 administrators that will come before us or not come before us, depending on our action. I did not see Juneteenth included in their list, which was interesting to me. Any further comments? Well, with that, I will call for a vote on the motion that I presented. All in favor? Okay, passes unanimously. Now I'll make an additional motion. Move effective July 1st, 2021, to endorse a 2.75% general wage increase applied to the town administrator's pay plan, thus affecting compensation for non-union personnel for fiscal year 2021-22, and to recommend approval to the town council. And this I will make also, excuse me, my neglect of this wording, contingent on approval by the union and by the town to endorse the 2.75 and so forth.
Second.
Any comment? If not, I'll call for a vote. All in favor? That passes unanimously. Okay, thank you. Now, at this point, I would entertain a motion to move the committee into executive session in accordance with Connecticut General Statutes number 1-206A for town manager's compensation. Is there a motion to go into executive session?
So
Terry.
moved.
Okay. Second? Brian,
Ron,
second.
would you specify who is to be included?
Yeah, those included would include the committee members, the mayor, and I would right now be open to a suggestion as to whether we should, who else should be included in that? Those here on the call include Holly and Ryan. Would it be appropriate for them to be included, for Holly to be included? That's my question. I have no objection. Indeed, I would assume that under Connecticut personnel statutes, the person being discussed has a right to be included in such a meeting.
I don't know that a person being discussed has a right to be included. I think the person being discussed has a right to request the discussion take place in public.
Ah,
If, yeah. And in this instance, the person being discussed is not requesting that it be done in public.
okay. Then I would assume that those in the meeting would simply include the members of the committee and the mayor.
Okay, you just need to know how to shut us down at the end, how to come out of executive session and then back in. And
Yeah, good
I
question.
bet you Holly could tell you how to do that.
Yeah,
Right, so I would need to make somebody else, because if I exit, somebody else the host of the meeting.
that goes a little beyond my technological skills. So I'm going to ask, does anyone else wish to be the host? Terry or Brian?
First off, we'll need to stop recording before we shift.
Mhm.
Right,
And yeah, I can be the host.
Okay.
Gary, you know how to put people in and out of a waiting room, basically?
Do I need to do that?